advocacy, federal advocacy, is not a part-time occupation. It's something, there are professionals who do this work. And having the employ of representatives and lobbyists is not a bad thing. Many times it's essential. So that's important, and you need somebody to work it every day. And so it's not just a one-off, oh, let me go to Congress today. There are so many pressures at work that it's almost impossible to be effective that way. I manage the day-to-day operations as Chief of Staff. My responsibilities extend, they include, all the personnel decisions, hiring, firing, retention, promotion, setting salaries, but I also manage the budget for the offices. My job is to make sure that the congressman's legislative agenda gets accomplished. The way I do that is by making sure that we have the adequate personnel, the adequate human resources to make sure that happens. Part of my job as his principal political officer is that I do also handle the bulk of his political work. So his fundraising, his stakeholder relations, when some trade group or some company gets bent out of shape about something that is happening or has happened, it's my job to figure out a way to massage that relationship. During the course of a week in our office, the congressman may take, in D.C. and Mississippi combined, he will take somewhere between 20 and 50 meetings, depending on the week. It'll vary just that much. His staff will take 3 times as many meetings. So in terms of outside groups, trade groups, companies, special interest groups that want to get in front of the member, chances are they're going to meet with the staffer. Many of the meetings that do happen with the member those meetings are just the byproducts of meetings that were had earlier with staff, where staff developed the issue. They convinced someone more senior in the office that this is something that the office should take an interest in. And perhaps 2 or even 3 meetings later, that group is now meeting with the member. But for a group to come in with an initial request to meet with the member, my member, just like most members, that's going to be a difficult ask. There will have to be some foundation laid. There will have to be, and that foundation may take the form of a pre-existing relationship. It may take the form of urgency. It may take the form of a real sensitivity that the member may have to the issue. For example, if a member is a former school teacher and the teachers union wants to get in here, then chances are the teachers union can get in if that member had a good relationship with the teachers union as an educator. So that's the kind of calculus that goes into how a group can get in front of a member. But most times, they'll end up meeting with staff at some point. In our office, and each office has its own setup, but there are some commonalities. In our office, scheduling requests come in however they come in, usually by email to some staffer. We direct all those requests to the scheduler. The scheduler then will have a meeting with me and or the member, and we will go over those scheduling requests. Each week, we'll go over, in D.C., 100 or so scheduling requests. We'll have about as many in the district that the congressman will go over as well. And we determine which staffer, if appropriate, or if the member should take the meeting. That decision is based on familiarity with the issue, the timing of the issue. It's based on who is requesting the meeting, and it's based on the member's interest. And sometimes staff will have a particular interest or a particular working relationship with the requester, and we will explore that and see if there's a need to take the meeting based on that. We get a lot of requests. I shouldn't say a lot, but some significant minority of requests we get are from groups that don't have any relation to the district. So they may be from other parts of Mississippi, or they may be from out of state, and they want to come in and meet with our member for whatever reason. And most of those requests are denied, but a good number of them we do take because there is some relationship there. There's some reason that we should, give them an ear, and we do. A number of methods. Mass email campaigns, the mass letter writing campaigns are sort of tried and true methods. They are good at getting the member office's attention. They're good at communicating a single message. Many of those campaigns will really consist of a form letter where the content is identical in each letter, but it's just signed by 10,000 different people, similar to a petition, if you will. But these are just individual letters that people take the time to hit send in an email inbox, or they'll take time to actually send snail mail, which is less and less now. Most of the written correspondence we receive is electronic these days, and that's been increasingly the case, particularly since the anthrax attack in 2002. So we get those mass campaigns. Other ways by telephone. The people who tend to make those requests by telephone tend to be either novices who just have no experience and think they can just call up to a member of Congress and get a meeting with them, or they tend to be people who have what I would say are very close relationships with the member. So someone who the member has known for some extended period of time, who has a history with the office, who's been in to see the member many times before, might feel comfortable calling in. In our office, we maintain a good record of who the congressman has met with. So even those folks who call in, we will always request a written document, and that's usually an email. Just a letter saying, I would like to meet with the congressman, give us a time frame, subject matter, and then the office will go through the process I described earlier of determining whether we should take the meeting. Other ways those messages are communicated to our offices. Media plays an increasingly important role, both traditional media and new media. Traditional media, you still get the occasional PSA on public access TV or network TV when you're back in the district, and those messages resonate with the member. But also messages are being communicated about through social media. So a hashtag can really get a staffer's attention, and when the staffer is focused on something, they'll mention it to the member, and some strategy will be discussed. Should there be a course of action undertaken? Is this something we can withstand? Can we ignore it? And most times, everything gets somebody's attention, particularly in these days of everything being recorded, or at least the fear that everything is being recorded, and the high likelihood that anything you say will end up coming back, even when you don't think it's being done or said in an open environment. If it's a pressing issue, if it's something that's timely and in the news cycle, an issue that Congress is currently considering, and the congressman has not had a chance to either vote on the issue or state publicly what his position is, then we'll pay attention to that. That's a way to get a member's attention when something is pressing, and you let them know that you're paying attention, so that the office feels like they're under the watchful eye of the voting public. The danger in that is it's last minute, and many times, even if a member hasn't had an opportunity to publicly state his or her position, most times they'll have one. Especially if it's the week of a vote or the week of a committee hearing that's relevant to the issue. So that's the danger you run in sort of waiting until the time is right is that it may be too late. But I think the most effective way and the way that we really invite is before something is pressing, before there is a real problem. So if you have some vision and you can forecast what's going to happen, and you bring that idea to us, then that's something we can act on in a proactive way, and we are never left in a defensive posture. So we can lead the charge if it's something that the congressman is interested in taking up. But so many members are defensive. Many members in this, each day when members go home, just like the rest of the American public, they watch TV too. And you get this list of winners and losers. So they turn on MSNBC or Fox, and Fox will tell us all the Republicans who won today and all the Democrats that lost. And MSNBC does the exact same thing. All the Democrats that won and all the Republicans that lost. So you get this daily rundown. And that can really be stifling to the development of good, sound policy, because members become consumed by this fear of being demagogued on the 8 o'clock talk shows. And these aren't newscasts, these are just talking heads offering their opinions about what's happening. And pretending to be experts on some legislative process that they've never participated in. And so the public gets to see this, as the metaphors use, this sausage being made, and it never looks pretty. And so, less and less now, you're seeing Congress being able to come up with good, sound, moderate policy decisions. The most common mistake is coming late. Many organizations will approach members at the last minute and try to, A, get their point across about the subject at hand, but B, try to introduce themselves. And it's tough to introduce yourself and also have some weight or have any bearing on the outcome of the policy, because the member wants to know. Members have egos. They run for Congress every year. It's a healthy thing for the job they have. You should have some high self-esteem if you're going to run for Congress and if you're going to serve in some public office. And so they do. So for someone to show up at the last minute may be perceived as a lack of respect for the position. It'll be perceived as a lack of interest. So where have you been all these many years when all these other related issues have been taken up by the Congress? There are very few new issues. The new issues we see, what few there are really related to technology. So the new issue, one of the new issues, for example, is, do you have a right to privacy when you use a Wi-Fi network in a public space? That's a technology thing. And so, but the last telecom bill Congress passed in '96, there were a lot of folks who had a say in that bill. And so the question is, are you just now showing up? Are you just now learning about it? But it's a complex relationship, because it's not just that organization that has an interest. Many times these organizations have lobbyists. And so if an organization is paying a lobbyist to represent them in Washington, to have some presence in Congress, in the House and in the Senate, then the expectation is that those representatives, those lobbyists, are being advocates for that organization. But so many times, the lobbyists will only show up when the organization shows up, when they have what's called a fly-in. So when the fly-in happens and they bring in 300 representatives from 30 different states, then the lobbyist wants to show up, stick their chest out and say, look at the army of people I have. But the truth is, we see you once a year. And my member, Congressman Thompson, is really good about being straight up with people when they come into office in that way and saying, there's no special relationship here. We haven't seen you in 365 days. or 730 days in some cases, because folks will take a year off. And so, that really can be problematic. So I think just avoiding that is a good way. But one of the really great ways, I didn't mention earlier, to connect with a member is to do it on a district level. So if you can find someone in the member's district, a constituent, who can relate to the member about an issue, the member's not going to ignore a constituent. My member from Mississippi probably doesn't think every day about what the people in Kansas hold as an opinion on some issue, or what they think about him even. But if you get somebody from Greenville, Mississippi, that's going to make a big difference to him. Chances are he knows somebody who knows that person, if he doesn't know them directly, and that's going to matter.